again. All right. Okay, so I mentioned in the last class that we were going to look at layer styles. All right. Anybody looked into layer styles? Anybody can tell me what that is? What the layer style is? Okay.
I didn't.
All right. All right. So one of the palettes that you have in Photoshop is your styles palette, right? I just put it up. If you can't see it, you can click on window and styles. I hope it's the same menu in your CC 2019. Shouldn't be different, right? We're done styles. Everybody get that? Everybody can find that? Once you get that, it pulls up a default list of styles for you. And styles, these are basically style presets, right? Pre-configured styles that you can apply to any layer to style it. So some of the options we have, and we can apply them to the text layer. Color target. Color target might look better with another layer. So let's duplicate it. Let's get a square layer as well. Right? So let's apply the same color target layer style to that square or that rectangle. See what it looks like. So this is what that layer style looks like on a rectangle. And this is what the same layer style looks like on a text layer. Right? I'm just gonna go through a few of them, applying the layer style to the first the rectangle and then the text layer. So you can see what they look like, what a few of them look like. Right? We're not gonna go through all of them. Right? You also have a number of additional styles, which you can create your own styles and group them up, save them, right? You can actually go online, download styles. Let me just replace the current set with a few others. So this is another set of styles again, another style set. This one is called Fire on White. Let's apply that to the text layer, see what it looks like. Yeah. Another style is Fire on Black, right? Let's apply that one to the text. Fire on Black. Apply it to the rectangle. Fire on Black, right? So that is, you would apply it apparently on black background and white background to get it to fit. Everybody sees that. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, how do you make your own styles? How do you customize styles? If you were starting with a predefined style, for instance, let's use the Fire on White, right? When you apply it to any layer, if you look in the layers palette, you will notice that your layer now has a bunch of, well, I call them blending options, but they're a bunch of styles, right? Applied to a bunch of effects applied to it, right? If we double click on any one of them, we're gonna start with Bevel and Emboss. It will bring us to our layer style dialog box from which we can edit all of those options. So let's just go through them in detail to see what they are. I'm going to remove every single one of them. And we're just going to apply them one by one, and I'll explain as best I can what they are as we go along. So to achieve the effect below, which is Fire on White, right? We have a Bevel and Emboss effect. Now, can anybody tell me in their own words or by your experience what the Bevel and Emboss effect does?
I never used that.
You never? Okay. Well, the Bevel and Emboss actually gives you, it makes your objects look solid or 3D-ish, it gives it dimension. All right. So rather than just have a flat square, right? We have a square that is given this style of pillow embossed, right? It looks a bit solid, but a simple, let me put a simple inner bevel. See, a simple bevel basically gets your flat square to look like it's a button in 3D that you can actually touch. You notice that? So that is the effect of the bevel and emboss.
Yeah.
Counter basically adjusts the light, how the light affects it. And then the texture is straightforward. It applies a texture to it, right? But a bevel texture. So a texture, 3D looking texture, right? Stroke. Can anybody tell me what is a stroke?
Like,
That stroke is not ideal for you to see. That's just a stroke for the effect. But we're not going to use a pattern stroke here. I'm going to change it to a color stroke so we can see. And let's change it to black. So a stroke is basically a line around the edges of your object, right? So everybody see the gray square now? It's actually black, but the opacity has been dropped to 50 and the blend mode is hard light. So it's not looking black, but it's actually black. So a stroke is pretty much a line going around the edges of your document. You can change the color, you can change the size, you can change how it appears. All right, let's change the color to red, for instance. Okay, everybody sees that? Okay. The next one we have is, pick up the bevel, an inner shadow. Now I don't have to explain what an inner shadow is, right? An inner shadow is just that, a shadow that appears on the inside of your object. Now again, this shadow is red. We know that most shadows are black. You can change the color of your shadow as well to any color to suit your design purposes, right? So let's use a black shadow, for instance, right? And all of these options here allow you to fine tune your effects, all right? So you guys following along with me on your computer, you have Photoshop open?
I cannot use both Photoshop and Zoom now.
Or you can't use, okay, well, let me just explain. So you'll be able to get to the layer style dialog box by double clicking on any one of the layer styles there, any one of the effects, right? Now you would activate the effect by clicking in the little checkbox, right? But you will adjust the options for each one of them by clicking on the text.
Yeah, I play around with the layer styles already.
Okay,
I never use.
Okay,
like
I just making sure you understand that if you're not following. All right, cool.
Okay.
So that's your inner shadow. With inner shadow, you can adjust the distance. Distance is how far the shadow will be cast, right? The size is well, it will how wide your shadow is, meaning if you have a brighter light source, right? You tend to have a darker shadow. Depending on the angle of the light source, your shadow tends to be cast a bit further or closer, right? So pretty much these options would adjust your perspective of the light, right? The next option we have is the inner glow. Inner glow, again, goes without saying. It's a glow on the inside of your object. So let's put it red so we can see. Here's the size. And let's put it simple. So that's what a red inner glow looks like. Satin. Anybody can tell me what satin does?
You can use the glow to make like a neon effect, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Glows is what you would use to create that neon effect. You would have to, of course, use the right colors and yeah. So inner glow, outer glow. That's what, yeah, you would use. Cool. The satin, can anybody describe the effect of the satin for me? You guys know satin cloth? You guys know what is satin cloth?
Satin who?
Satin cloth. It's
like
a
silk or something.
type of material. Yeah, almost like that. But when you bend or fold satin cloth in different ways, it tends to give you certain effects on the material with the way it interacts with the light. All right. So that option here, satin, gives you similar effects to it. That's why it's called satin. Right. So you play around with the effects and see what you can come up with. Okay.
Notice thing.
Yeah, tell me.
Most of these styles, when you click on them, they just come with their own or preset
Defaults. Right. You
blend
cannot,
mode.
the say that right, most of the styles, you mean from the styles palette or here? From the style
Yes,
dialog
so
box. Okay,
these styles, they just come with their own blend mode.
Oh, the blend mode, well, remember, we actually adjusting the style of this, which is fire on white. So that is the blend mode that's required to create the fire on white effect. But in general, when you come to each effect, right, they do have their default settings. And even so, you can change it. So right now, if I wanted to default to this setting, which is hard light, that color, 70% opacity, 41-degree angle for the light, distance of 168 and the size of 122 as we have on the screen here, right? And that particular style of counter. All I have to do is click that button down here that says make default, right? And every time I apply the satin effect, it's going to go automatically to this style, right? If I wanted to go back to the Photoshop default, I would click reset to default, and it would go back to whatever it is the Photoshop default is. Usually, well, they're different for each one of the effects, right? You get that, right? That's what you were asking about.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Next one is color overlay, and that's straightforward. It gives you a color overlay over your object. Now, although color overlay is just a flat color, you can actually use the blend mode, right, to get different effects on your full color images. So let me see if I can pull up an image real quick to demonstrate that.
While you're doing that, I can ask you a question.
Go ahead.
Since you're professional, you're an expert in Photoshop, right?
Expert enough, okay.
The the blend modes. Another way you can recognize how to say that now. Like each blend, like let's say you have a picture and you have a shape
and you want to blend it.
But
you want to find out which blend mode will be most ideal for what you're trying to do?
Yes.
Okay.
And I want to find out if it have a standard look for each blend mode. Because I noticed that when you put certain blend mode, it does change the colors of certain things. So
yes.
You recognize that over time, or you just have to try each and every one of them and see whatever you like?
Okay.
Or you
would recognize it over time, and you would sort of grow on you. But there are certain things that you could look for, right? For instance, and you would use blend modes differently. So right now, I am actually just going through the blend modes, and a lot of the time, when you're not sure what effect you want to go for, you want to just try to create something, you could just start from the first blend mode, normal, and go down through the list, scroll down and see if there's anything that gives you something close to what you want, and then work from there.
Are you using a shortcut then, all right?
No, I basically have a red color overlay, I'm clicking in the blend mode box and I'm using the down arrow keys on the keyboard to simply go to the next blend mode, the next blend mode, the next blend mode, the next blend mode, and it's changing as I go down. I'm just pressing the down arrow key on the keyboard.
Okay.
Right? Now, blend mode will tend to do different things. For instance, if you have an image and you blend it with multiply, right? So let's say I have white. Multiply will make all white disappear, for instance. So anytime you have white and you blend it to multiply, all white will disappear. The other image, the other colors will be affected differently. You'll be able to see through them with different intensities. It wouldn't affect black at all, but white would disappear. Now, where that might come in handy is if you wanted to, for instance, remove backgrounds of images as easily as possible. Another one is screen. So screen will make all black disappear, but it wouldn't affect white. So notice the white that wasn't visible. Oh, sorry, I was actually using two screens. You guys wasn't seeing that box before, not sure. I was actually using two screens and I have it and I didn't realize that you can probably only see one. So let's take it again. If you guys not seeing something, let me know, all right? Because I'm not exactly sure what you guys seeing on your end. So let's take it again. What I'm doing is, so this is a white color overlay. Let's make it red so we can see the effect all over again. And in the blend mode box, selecting normal, and I'm using the down arrow keys on the keyboard to change the mode to get the different effects. All right. For the colors, the blend mode will work differently on different colors. Let's start with white. So if I have a white color or white in an image, and I set it to multiply, all the white would disappear. Let me demonstrate that using a gradient overlay instead of a color overlay. So if I go to a gradient, and the gradient overlay is actually the next layer style. So everybody can see the gradient, right? It goes from black to white, or white to black. So what do you think is going to happen if I set it to multiply? If multiply will make all of the whites disappear, what do you think will happen if I set the gradient overlay to multiply? Everybody see that effect?
Yeah.
Right. So the black is still visible at the bottom. So that's the black right there. But all of the white has disappeared, so we can see the top part of the image. If I put it back to normal, we have a black and white image. Put it to multiply, the white will disappear. Again, let me reverse it for emphasis. If we have the black on top and the white below, set it to multiply, the white will disappear, the black will stay. Now, what will happen if I turn it to screen? So screen will make the black disappear and the white stay. All right, let's put it back to normal again. Let's reverse it to put the white on top. Set it to screen. Set it to screen, the black will disappear and the white will stay. So the blend modes will affect different colors differently. Not only the colors, but it will be blending it with the layers below it. So you can get a number of different effects. So a lot of time you actually going to want to be going through the blend modes. There's not too many of them, but go through them to get the best effect for what you're trying to create. Some of them create similar effects. Some of them are vastly different. All right. Cool. Everybody got that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's
Thanks
get
for
back.
revising that.
No problem. So let's get back to our original style. Remember, we were breaking down the layer style that created the fire on white, right? And we will color overlay. So let's again remove everything. and color overlay. So this is the color of the square originally, but with color overlay, it gives it an orange color overlay, sets it to linear light, right? And the opacity to 61. So that's straightforward enough. Gradient overlay applies a gradient, and everybody knows what a gradient is, right? When you have one color fading into another or multiple colors fading into each other, right? Everybody understand what a gradient is?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Right. So you have your gradient editor. We can go through that in a little more detail before you have any issues on it a little later on. All right. Then we have pattern overlay. Pattern overlay simply applies a pattern. The same way a color overlay just applies a color over your document or over your object. A pattern overlay simply applies a pattern over your object, right? Then we have the outer glow. So the outer glow provides a glow on the outside of your image, right? This is what it looks like normal, right? And a drop shadow gives the effect of a shadow, basically. So let's use this, right? So the effect of a shadow on your object. With the shadow, you can determine where your light source is coming from. You see that option here where it is angle 120 degrees and use global light.
yeah.
Right. That use global light is important because it will determine what all of the light angles for your entire document is. So if I were to change the angle to, let's say, 40 degrees, that means it changed the perception of where my light source is, in other words, where my sun is. So based on where the sun is, your shadow will fall in a different direction, right? So that's what that setting is for, determining which direction the shadow is going to fall. And use global light sets the value of the global light for your entire document.
I notice all of them have count here. And
Or remember what?
count, the way red way be there.
Counter.
Yeah, I try to play around with that. I don't really understand like how to
Counter again adjusts how the light affects the object. So it gives you different effects to the light, different reflections and so on. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And you can create your own counter. It's just an advanced way of manipulating the visual effects of the light, the perception of the light. But when you add all of them together,
But
you get the style called fire on white. Yeah. Everybody get that?
yes, sir.
Okay. So just to recap, you have your styles palette where you can find a number of styles. Just run through a few others, right? Once you select the style and you apply it to a layer, you can actually break down the styles and see what effects were used to create that particular style, right? Now, some of the things you can do with a style once you have it. Let's say I like that style for my rectangle, right? And I create a circle. Let's create a circle. Right? And I want that same style that's on my rectangle on my circle, right? We have the option to, from the layers palette, right click on the layer, and you can copy a layer style, clear a layer style, meaning remove all of the effects, right? And well, once you copy, you have the option to select a new layer and paste a layer style, which will apply the effects to the new layer. Everybody sees that?
Yeah. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
All right, cool. Now I have some homework for you. Still haven't watched those brochures yet, but I have some homework for you. Yeah. See, we've been going through styles. They have their own names. I'm going to demonstrate, give you an example of what I want from you. So I'm going to clear the text layer. Clear layer style to remove all of the effects. And for your homework, I want you to create your own style for me. So creating this style is simple. I just want you to create something that you can be proud of. And you can feel free to use it in your brochure if you like or not. But then we will be breaking down at least one of them in the next class. So you will simply determine how you want your layers to look. I'm just going to do a fast example, right? Using probably every effect I can find.
Can we dedicate a day to looking at what everybody do?
Yes, actually, I do plan to do that. I just haven't gotten to that as yet, and the other guys haven't really been around, so I sort of been putting that up. We saw Kendall already, at least part of it.
Observation, I was yesterday and I noticed something with regards to print.
With regard to print, tell me.
I noticed they have different type of papers or different type of effects of printing. We're going to look into that?
Not really, no. Different types of papers and effects on the printing. When you say effects on the printing, tell me.
Like the print, it was a flyer, a poster, or a flyer, and they had like a glow kind of effect on it, and it was using, I don't know if it's normal printing paper or whatever. We're going to look into those type of things. Anything?
No, that would be printing production. No, but Photoshop should be able to print your all of your effects. At least most printers should be able to replicate all of your effects. So printing is not really a major issue. The other thing is, depending on your printer, you're going to get different print options and print settings. So that's not really something that we can standardize in Photoshop. That would be production. That'll be something. That'll be like the next step in the process.
Design in the design process, right? So that's something that we should, if we want to do ourselves, we should
say
look
that
up.
again. Say that again.
In graphics design. So is that something that we should look to further our knowledge in?
Well, it is something that you have to further your knowledge in, because you were mentioning different types of paper, right?
Yeah,
and different sizes.
Effects.
Well, the effects is not a problem. Printing is printing, and a good printer should be able to print and replicate your effects fine. But if you're talking about the type of paper, then I mean, that's not really Photoshop. If you want a business card, for instance, you would print it on cardstock paper, as opposed to something that you would print on a different type of paper. If you want a label, you would print a label paper, but that's not really Photoshop specific.
Okay. So
is that what you're asking?
Yeah, the terminology to look into that is print production. Right?
Yeah, is basically. Yeah.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Okay, cool. Or rather than that, you could just talk to your local printers, which is Campbell, Xerox, for the most part, and find out what they have available. That's usually what it would boil down to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
What do you mean by copy shape attributes?
Copy shape attributes?
Yeah. And the rest of those things.
I'm not sure right now.
Merge, flat.
Merge would merge, basically flatten your it would merge your layers. In other words, join two layers into one.
It's not the same thing. Oh, okay. 10 minutes left.
Yeah. And anyway, we were talking about the homework. So I want you to create your own layer styles. or homework, right? Something you can be proud of. At least 2 different ones. I want one on the text layer and one on the any other layer. Can be raster, shape, anything you want, right? And we're gonna look at them in the next class. Also, finish working on your brochures. I hope now we can do that in the next class. Look at them. All right, I'll listen to the beginning of the next class as well.
Okay.
Okay. Your brochure's coming along, okay? Nobody have difficulties with it?
No, I just want to create my own pattern.
That the same pattern you're talking about. When you say
Question about formatting and whatever. So like, let's say I create something with lines and I want to have it as a pattern.
to be repeated throughout the document.
Yes.
Okay. And you haven't been able to do that as yet?
I don't really understand how to do it. So I just leave it alone.
All right. Let me see if I can.
I check in, I can save it as an image and just use it as a clipping mask, but I wanted to learn how
you can check in, you can what? Do it as an image?
Yeah, save it as like an image, like a.
Oh, like a regular file. Okay.
Yeah, like a regular file.
All right. All right. Okay. I'm going to attempt to create not seamless, but a simple, repeatable pattern, okay, for you. So for the most part, so I have a square document, 5 by 5 inches, right? And I create my pattern on it. So mine is circles, yours might have been lines, or it could be groups of images, whatever the case might be, right? Whatever your pattern is, it is. A seamless pattern is a pattern that when it is repeated on the horizontal and vertical axis, it looks like a single image. You cannot tell where it starts and it stops. You guys understand that? So I have this image that I want to convert to a pattern. I go to my edit menu. It may be slightly different than your version of Photoshop, and you can define pattern. What do we call it? Let's call it dots. Right? Okay. Now, I've come back to my original document that I was working on, and let me use the background layer. I can apply a pattern overlay, right? Go to my settings, and I'm going to look for a pattern called dots. There we go, dots. Yeah. And there we go, that's my pattern. So I just created a pattern there and applied it to my document. Now I can scale it up, scale it down, pretty much. That's what you were asking, how to do that.
Yes, sir. All right, thanks.
So that answers your question. You'll be able to replicate that?
Yes, of course.
All right, straightforward enough. Once you define your pattern, you give it a pattern overlay and you look for your pattern. Give it a name so you can identify it. And then you should be good to go. Yeah. But I'm still not sure why you want to create your own pattern now. It just seems like a lot of work. But it's up to you. I'll see what you come up with in the end. All right.
All right.
Okay, guys. Any other questions before we wrap up?
My question. Will you answer my questions from before?
No, I did not answer questions. Let's hit them up now. Okay. You're saying a photographer sent you an image, Photoshop didn't recognize it. It had the extension file, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now,
Well,
usually,
it had a, yeah, extension.
right. Usually that happens when you either didn't download the file properly or the photographer didn't save the file properly. Let me give you a quick example. You see here, I have a file. Everybody can see that file. It's called dslogo.png.
Yeah.
Right?
Mine wasn't saying PNG, it was saying file.
It was saying file. Now, the file extension determines what how Windows or your operating system handles the file. In other words, what application the file is open with, and so on. If I were to change the extension to anything other than PNG, say file, right? First of all, I get an error message saying if you change the file extension, it might become unusable. Are you sure I want to change it? Yes.
We're not seeing.
Okay. What?
3 more minutes.
Yeah. See now, if I try and open it, Photoshop gives me an error. Could not open your request because it's not the right kind of document. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. You can go back right there. It's the same file, no conversion needed. We just need to know for sure what is the file extension. See what it looks like? There's logo.file. If you know the file extension, you can always update it to what the file extension is supposed to be. In that case, that is supposed to be a PNG file. So we add .png to the end.
We're not seeing.
You get the same error if you change
Well,
the
I
file
guess-
extension, it might become unusable.
As if I try to do that again.
Now the thing is, it may have been a PNG, it may have been a JPEG, it may have been a GIF. Did you know what type of file it was? If you change it to the wrong extension, then it wouldn't work. It could have been a PDF, it could have been a PSD. You need to
I take
change
the same. I take the same image and I change it to JPEG, PNG, and JPEG with an E.
Okay.
The resolution sucked.
It could have been a raw file. It could have, you need to find out from the person you get the file from what type of file they sent you, because somewhere along the line it got corrupted. That's why the extension was changed.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't tell you exactly how it happened, but that is the cause and the solution.
Okay, next question.
Okay, sorry, another thing that you could do is run it through Paint. Usually, and that's another issue you have when you send images through like WhatsApp and it gets compressed for size. You might get errors opening it up in Photoshop. Run it through another image editing app like Paint and save it to rebuild the file data, and it should be okay.
Okay.
Your
Let's
other
say I do
question?
my brochure in RGB.
Mm-hmm.
How do I convert it to
CMYK.
CMYK?
So to do that, you essentially change the color mode, image mode, and you can change the color mode right there from RGB to CMYK.
Okay.
Now, if it's RGB and you change it to CMYK, you're very likely going to notice color changes in your document, because
Yeah, we covered that in the last class.
right. But then the other way, CMYK to RGB is a little bit better. It may ask you to flatten your document. Usually that makes it look a little better without changing as much effects and transparency options. But you don't have to do that. Yeah, it might cut off any second. But that answers your question, right?
Yeah.
All right, guys.